I thought I was still her husband, until the night I realized I wasn't. The awful part? She didn't even flinch when I found out. She looked me straight in the eyes, lips parted just slightly, and said, "You always knew I needed him." As if that explained how my wife's so-called work husband had quietly turned into the real one, while I was still living in the same house, wearing the same ring, sleeping in the same bed. We'd been married for 7 years, comfortable years, predictable years. Our lives had a rhythm, her morning coffee steaming in a chipped white mug, my keys always clattering in the same bowl by the door, the faint hum of her laughter spilling from the kitchen as she caught up on office gossip. I trusted her with the kind of blind devotion you give only once in a lifetime. And for the longest time I believed she trusted me too. Until him. I didn't notice at first. He was just a name in her sentences, an extra character in her stories. James said this, or James helped me with that. A colleague, nothing more. I even laughed about it when she called him her work husband. I thought it was cute, harmless. I thought it meant she was the kind of woman who collected friends easily, who needed someone to make her long hours bearable. I didn't see the way her voice softened when she said his name. I didn't notice her eyes flickering, searching for mine, checking if I caught it. The first time I felt it, though, the shift. I couldn't explain why. It was late. She came, home after drinks with coworkers, cheeks flushed, her perfume sharp in the cool night air. When she leaned down to kiss me, her lips missed mine by just half an inch, landing at the corner of my mouth instead. And in that breath of distance, I smelled something new. Not whiskey, not wine, something warmer, a trace of cologne that wasn't mine. I brushed it off, told myself it was nothing, told myself she loved me because she did, or at least I thought she did. But the nights grew later. The texts came more often. I'd watch her screen light up across the room, the tiniest smile, tugging at her lips, the kind of smile that used to belong only to me. One night, curiosity burned hotter than fear. Her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I didn't mean to look, but my eyes locked on the preview of his message. Just 4 words, simple, ordinary. "I miss you already." My stomach knotted. My fingers trembled. I didn't open it, I couldn't. Instead, I sat there in the dim glow of the lamp, listening to the water run, knowing that whatever was happening between them wasn't just office banter. I told myself I'd wait. I'd catch her in the act if there was one. I needed proof before I let the floor collapse beneath me. That proof came faster than I was ready for. It was a Thursday. Rain tapping against the windows, soft thunder curling in the distance. She claimed she had a late client dinner. I believed her. I always believed her. But something in her voice that night felt too rehearsed, too careful. So after she left, I followed. Not in some cinematic rush with headlights off, not in a jealous rage, just quietly, cautiously, as if I were sneaking into my own life to see what was left of it. She drove downtown, parked outside a small restaurant glowing gold through the rain. I waited. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. And when she finally emerged, she wasn't alone. There he was. James, her work husband, tall, confident, the kind of man who wore his suits like second skin. And there she was, my wife, laughing at something he whispered, her hand brushing his arm like it belonged there. Then, as natural as breathing, he leaned down and she let him kiss her. Not a stolen kiss, not a guilty one. A kiss that spoke of ownership, of familiarity, of a promise already kept. My breath froze against the steering wheel. My chest hollowed out. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even blink. Because in that single moment I saw the truth clearer than ever. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was just the man she used to love. And yet, when she climbed into his car and they drove away, I followed. Not because I wanted to, not because I didn't already know, but because part of me needed to see just how far I had already lost her. What I found that night was worse than I ever imagined. I trailed their car through slick streets, windshield wipers smearing rain across the glass, my pulse thrumming louder than the storm outside. Every turn they made felt deliberate, like choreography I was never invited to join. They weren't sneaking. That's what gutted me most. They weren't afraid of being seen. When they finally stopped, it wasn't at some tucked-away motel or discreet corner of the city. No. They pulled into the glowing parking lot of a hotel I knew all too well, the one she and I had stayed in for our anniversary years ago. The same place where she once traced her fingertips across my chest and whispered, "This feels like forever." Forever, it seemed, had a new address. I sat in my car, frozen. Part of me expected her to look back, to check for me, to feel some invisible tether tug at her conscience. But she didn't. He opened the door for her, his hand resting on the small of her back like it belonged there. She tilted her face toward him, smiling that private smile I hadn't seen in months, and they disappeared through the sliding doors. It should have been rage that burned in me. Instead, it was something quieter, something stranger, a calm so sharp it cut deeper than anger ever could. I drove home, the image of them seared into me, and when she returned hours later, I pretended to be asleep. I listened to her shower. I felt her slip into bed beside me, damp hair brushing my arm, the faint trace of his cologne mingling with her skin. She curled toward me out of habit, her breath steady against my neck, and in the silence I asked myself a question I wasn't ready for. Was she already gone? Or had she been gone for longer than I realized? The days that followed blurred together, but my senses sharpened. I noticed everything. The way she lingered on her phone in the morning, thumb hovering as if waiting for his message. The way she hummed while cooking. A tune I didn't recognize but must have been something he played. For her. The way her body angled ever so slightly away from me when we sat on the couch. Still I said nothing. Instead, I studied her. Memorized her. Every tilt of her head, every laugh that wasn't meant for me. It was torture, but it was also clarity. For the first time I wasn't blinded by the comfort of routine. I saw her as she was now, not the woman I married, but the woman she was becoming. One evening I tested her. We were in the kitchen, the smell of garlic and butter clinging to the air, when I wrapped my arms around her waist from behind like I used to. She stiffened, not dramatically, just enough that I felt it. "Long day?" I whispered. Yeah." Her answer was clipped, automatic. She slid out of my arms gently like she thought I wouldn't notice. "Can you set the table?" I did, but my hands trembled as I placed the plates, not from anger, from certainty. I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't paranoid, she was already half gone. The next test came a week later. I told her I might stop by her office for lunch. Her reaction was immediate, too sharp. "Oh, tomorrow's really busy. Maybe later in the week?" I smiled, pretending to accept it, but inside a new seed of bitterness took root. She wasn't just lying to me. She was protecting him. And yet, I couldn't walk away. Not yet. Because the truth is, beneath the betrayal, beneath the slow unraveling of our marriage, I still loved her. And love makes fools out of even the sanest men. That's why I didn't confront her that night when she came home late again. Instead, I waited, patient, watchful. She stood in the doorway, damp from the rain, hair sticking to her cheeks, and for a second, just a second, our eyes met and I saw her falter. Something flickered in her gaze. Guilt, maybe. Or longing. She crossed the room, set her bag down, and touched my shoulder like it was still hers to claim. "Miss me?" she teased, her voice light, too light. I wanted to say everything, to tell her I knew, to scream, to beg, to demand an answer, but the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I kissed her. She hesitated only for a breath before kissing me back. But it wasn't the same. Her lips moved, but her heart was elsewhere. And when she pulled away, she smiled, softly, sadly, as though I were a memory she was already mourning. That was the moment I knew. The line had been crossed. Not just by her. By me, too. Because pretending nothing was wrong had turned me into a stranger in my own marriage. And the next time she slipped out to see him, I wouldn't just follow. I would step into the shadows of their secret and tear the truth wide open. The night it all unraveled started like any other. Quiet. Too quiet. She said she was heading to the gym after work, but I'd stopped believing her rehearsed excuses. My instincts screamed louder than her words, so I followed. This time, there was no subtlety. She drove straight to his apartment complex, pulling into the lot with the kind of ease that said it wasn't her first time. My chest tightened, but instead of waiting in the car like before, I stepped out. Rain slicked the pavement, cold against my skin, but I didn't care. I stood in the shadows of a streetlight watching her knock on his door. He opened it almost instantly, like he'd been waiting, like she belonged there, and when she leaned in, he kissed her. Right there. No hesitation. I don't know how long I stayed frozen. Seconds. Minutes. Time blurred. My throat burned with words I couldn't form. Eventually they disappeared inside and the door shut. That should have been the end of it. Proof enough. But something in me snapped. My feet carried me forward before I had the sense to stop. I was standing at his door when it opened again. Her eyes went wide, lips parting in a soft gasp. For a heartbeat, none of us moved. She looked caught between guilt and anger, as if my very presence was the real betrayal. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "I could ask you the same," I said, and the steadiness of my tone startled even me. James hovered behind her, tense but silent. His presence loomed, but my focus was only on her. She faltered, glancing back at him before returning her gaze to mine. "I didn't want you to find out like this." The words cut deeper than any knife. Not what she said, but how. Calm, controlled, as if this was a conversation she'd rehearsed in her head 100 times. I laughed, bitter and broken. "So, how was I supposed to find out? An invitation to your second wedding?" Her face crumpled then, a crack in her composure. She stepped outside, shutting the door behind her, and for the first time in months we were alone, just the two of us standing beneath the rain. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. He was just a friend, someone to talk to. And then—" her voice faltered. "Then it became more." I stared at her, searching for the woman I married. "More?" I repeated, the word foreign on my tongue. She looked down, raindrops sliding off her lashes. I tried to stop it. I swear I did, but he makes me feel seen, like he hears me in ways you don't anymore. Her confession wasn't a dagger, it was a slow, suffocating squeeze around my chest. Because part of me understood. Part of me knew I'd let the rhythm of our life dull into silence. That somewhere along the way I stopped reaching for her the way I once had, but knowing didn't make it hurt less. "You're my wife," I said, my voice trembling for the first time. That used to mean something. Her eyes lifted, shimmering, with tears. It still does, just differently. That's when it hit me. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry I found out. The rain poured harder, drumming against the pavement, blurring the edges of everything. She reached out, fingers brushing my hand, and for a second, God help me, I almost held on. Almost pretended her touch was still mine, but I pulled away. "I need you to tell me the truth," I said, my breath catching. "Do you love him?" The silence stretched, a noose tightening around my throat. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "Yes." The word shattered me, A single syllable, yet it cracked the foundation of everything we built. I turned away, my chest hollow, my vision swimming. But before I could leave, she caught my arm. "It doesn't erase what we had," she pleaded. "I'll always care for you. You were my first love." Her first love. Past tense. I pulled free, the weight of her confession pressing me into the night. For the first time, I understood. I wasn't fighting to save us anymore. I was fighting to let go. And yet, as I walked away, her voice followed me, breaking through the storm. I never wanted it to end like this. But it had. And the cruelest part was knowing it hadn't ended for her. I thought her confession would end me. I thought after hearing her say she loved him, there would be nothing left to feel but numbness. But the truth is, it woke something up in me. Not hope, not forgiveness. Something darker. A need to look her in the eye and force her to see the wreckage she left behind. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed while she lay inches away, her breaths steady, as though nothing between us had changed. The ceiling spun above me and I kept replaying her words. Yes, I love him. By morning, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. She was in the kitchen, hair tied back, humming softly as she poured coffee. I watched her leaning against the doorway, and for a fleeting second she looked exactly like the woman I fell in love with, the one who used to laugh with me in crowded bars, who used to grip my hand under tables as if no one else existed. "Do you remember?" I asked, my voice cutting. Through the quiet, when we stayed at the Harbor Hotel, that night we promised each other forever? Her hand froze around the coffee pot. Slowly she turned. Her eyes met mine, but she didn't speak. "I followed you there last week," I continued. My throat was raw, but I pressed on. "I saw you with him. I saw the way you looked at him, like I was already dead to you." Her lips parted, a soft tremor shaking her shoulders. She set the pot down with trembling fingers. "You weren't supposed to see that." "Not supposed to?" I snapped, pushing off the wall. My voice rose sharp and cracked. "God, do you even hear yourself? You're my wife, and you're out there building a life with him like I don't exist." She flinched, tears brimming. "I didn't mean to fall." "Stop," I cut in. "Don't say you didn't mean it. You made a choice. Every time you picked up his call, every time you stayed late, every time you kissed him, you chose him." Silence stretched between us, taut and dangerous. I could hear the faint tick of the clock, the hum of the fridge, the sound of her shallow breathing. Finally, she whispered, "You stopped choosing me first." The words hit harder than any blow. I staggered, my anger colliding with something softer, something I didn't want to admit. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. "You used to look at me like I was the only thing that mattered. But somewhere along the way I became background noise. James, he noticed me, he listened, and I—" She stopped, biting her lip, tears slipping free. "I needed that." I shook my head, chest burning. "So instead of fighting for us, you gave yourself to him." She reached out then, fingertips grazing my wrist, tentative and trembling. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. Her touch seared me, warm, familiar, devastating. My breath caught as I looked down at her hand against my skin. For one suspended moment, the world narrowed to just that contact. Her, me, the ghost of what we were. And then something cracked. I grabbed her wrist, pulling her closer. Our faces inches apart, rain from the night before still clinging to my memory. Her eyes glistened, wide and wounded, and for the first time in months I saw her stripped bare of excuses. Vulnerable. "Say it," I demanded, my voice low, trembling. "Say you don't want me anymore. Say it and I'll walk out that door and never come back." Her lips quivered. She tried to speak, but no sound came. Her breath hitched. shallow and frantic, her eyes locked on mine like I was both her salvation and her ruin. And then, she kissed me. Not out of love. Not out of loyalty. Out of desperation. Out of the need to cling to something that was already slipping through her fingers. The kiss was fire and ice all at once. Familiar, yet foreign. I felt the ache of every promise we'd broken, every moment we'd lost. Her hands clutched at me like she could stitch the pieces back together if she just held on tightly enough. For a second I let myself drown in it, in her, in us. But then I pulled away, breath ragged, heart pounding. "You can't have both," I said, my voice hoarse. "You can't keep him and hold on to me. Choose." Her tears spilled freely now, streaming down her face. "I don't know if I can." My chest hollowed, because that was my answer, wasn't it? If she didn't know, it meant she already had. I stepped back, her hand slipping from mine, and for the first time, I felt the weight of the end pressing down. But deep inside, beneath the devastation, there was something else. A spark. A clarity. This was the breaking point, and once the pieces fell, there would be no going back. I left the kitchen that morning with her tears still fresh on my shirt. My chest felt split open, my heartbeat raw in my ears. The ultimatum I'd given her, choose, hung between us like a blade suspended in midair. But days passed, and no choice came. She drifted through the house like a ghost, her body still present, but her soul caught somewhere between me and him. I watched her move, watched her breathe, watched her pretend nothing had changed, even as everything crumbled beneath us. And then came the night it all broke. She was sitting on the edge of our bed, phone in her hands, the glow illuminating her face. I stood in the doorway unseen. Her lips curved faintly, tenderly as she read his words. Not my words, not my love. His. That was the moment I understood. She had already chosen. I stepped inside, the floor creaking under my weight. She startled, clutching the phone to her chest as if hiding it could erase what I'd seen. "Don't," I said quietly. My voice carried the weight of finality. "I don't want any more lies." Her mouth opened, closed, then trembled. "I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed, soft, broken, sharp. "But you did. Every day you stayed here while your heart was somewhere else, you hurt me." Her eyes filled, tears spilling freely now. "I loved you. I still love you." "Not enough," I whispered. The silence that followed was deafening, heavy, final. She reached for me then, fingers trembling, but I stepped back. For the first time, I didn't let her touch me. And that was when it happened. The release, the collapse, the truth I'd been too afraid to face until now. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice breaking. "I can't be your husband while you're already his." Her sob caught in her throat. "So this is it?" "Yes." My chest ached with the word, but I forced it out. "This is it." She folded in on herself, crying into her hands, and the "awan" sound ripped through me like glass. For years that cry had been mine to soothe, mine to hold, and now I couldn't touch her. I couldn't fix it. I turned away, grabbing the bag I'd packed quietly over the last few days, waiting for this moment I knew was coming. She noticed it then, her sobs choking into silence. "You planned this," she whispered. "No," I said, pausing at the door. "You did." I walked out, down the hall, past the photos of us framed on the wall, the first apartment, the wedding, the vacations where we swore we were untouchable. Every picture now felt like a lie. When I stepped outside, the night air hit me hard, sharp and cold. I looked up, the sky endless above me, and for the first time in months, I breathed. Really breathed. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it was clean. Pure. A wound exposed to the air, raw but ready to heal. She would go to him, I knew that. He would become her husband, not in jokes, not in whispers, but in vows. And maybe he would give her the attention I stopped giving. Maybe he would keep her laughing, keep her humming, keep her eyes lit with that glow I'd once taken for granted. But as much as it broke me, I realized something vital. I deserved more than being her almost. I deserved someone who chose me, only me, without hesitation, without excuses. And maybe one day when the ache dulled and the pieces fit back together, I'd find her. Not her, the woman who left me in the rain for someone else, but her, the one who would stand in the storm, with me and never let go. As I walked into the night, every step away from her felt like tearing skin from bone, but it was also freedom. Freedom from half-truths, from stolen glances, from a marriage that had already ended long before I admitted it. And though it would take time, weeks, months, years, I knew this much. Her work husband had become her real husband, but he would never have what I once gave her. He would never have my forever. That part of me, I was finally keeping for myself.